large recreational facility, and I am inside the actual equipment of the pool room. And what we have here is we have at least 2 to 3 different pool setups and large filters and chemical and heating pumps and everything that's a part of this room that we're going to take you through. But to start this journey, we have to be at the pumps themselves. So we actually have 5 different pumps coming into this facility. So the facility has a small lap pool, has a very leisure pool with a large slide that goes into it, and it has some more recreational elements to it. So everything starts right here. One of the things that we're going to be looking at as an inspector isn't necessarily, are these operating properly? Because obviously a large system like this is going to be outside of our scope. But what I can see visually at a pump setup is I can at least see where those pumps going. So you'll be able to see behind me that these pumps are labeled. So we know one's going to the water slide, one's going to the lap pool, etc. And beyond that, I want to look for obvious maladies, right? So I'm looking for leaks. I'm looking for damage to any levers or any sort of connection point. Now, a place like this, obviously something this large with this much water, this much humidity, and that many different types of chemicals, if you will, there's going to be a point of corrosion. There's going to be some leaking and things of that nature, but we're looking for extreme issues in a property like this. So outside of looking at obvious maintenance records, which we'll get to momentarily, we want to look for those physical things we're already used to looking at. So as I come down here and I look at these pumps behind me, I can see that they're not leaking, there's no immediate issues, and they are running these in an expert fashion. At a size of a facility like this, there are so many different individuals who are responsible for the maintenance of it. I should expect coming into this that these pumps are in operational order and that we have no issues. If I find an immediate issue as an inspector, it would be in my best interest and the building's best interest to immediately find someone that we can let them know, because the more water being leaked, the more money they're wasting, the more chemical being disposed of, and the bigger issues they're going to have in the future. So after the pumps come through, we want to make sure that the water gets further cleaned. So let's walk over to the sand filters. Let's take a look at those right now. So now that we've taken a look at the pumps, knowing where the water is coming from, next is we want to go to the cleaning systems. So a building of this size is actually going to have a 2-part cleaning system. Behind me is that first part. We are looking at 2 very large sand filters. And in fact, this room has 3 sand filters. But looking at these 2 right now, as an inspector, there's only so much we can do visually, okay? We can see if there's any sort of leaks or issues at the connection points. You'll notice here that we also have handles at all of these different shutoff sections. We want to make sure that there's handles. We want to make sure that there's no damage or issues that we can physically see. But it's good to know that the water is coming from this direction right to these sand filters. Now, outside of these sand filters, there are a few areas that we will have a drain plug, if you will. We can look for leaks there. We can look for leaks at the connection point. And then we can also look for leaks underneath it. Remember, this type of facility, we're going to have some sort of leaking. You can even see down at the bottom some of the chalkiness that's left over from old water. That's probably from them testing it, not so much from a current leak. But it's always good to understand who is responsible for the maintenance again here, because if you see anything of question, we want to be able to take that to them and understand, was this an issue or was this something from you guys testing? Is this anything we should be worried about? So after we get through with the sand filter and we get rid of all the large things that are coming through, all the big particulates and things of that nature, now we're going to move to a smaller scale. And the next stage of cleaning is actually going to be our UV pumps, which are in the next room over. So let's hop over there and take a look at those. Okay, so now as we start the second process of our cleaning, you notice we just went through those large sand filters out there. And I just want to preface, don't be so nervous or overwhelmed when you come into a property in a room like this. Obviously, a lot of this is going to be outside of our standard of practice, but you still need to understand that a lot of these things are identified just by looking at data tags. So you can go up to it and understand, what is this tank? What is this system? You can at least see how large it is, the age of it, basic information that will be helpful to you. Obviously, if you go to something and it's extremely old, you already know from your intuition that something like that probably needs to be replaced. A place like this, again, is already well maintained, so I'm not likely to see that. However, make sure you pay attention to your data tags. Even here, you can see that they have put sticky notes with dates on these systems. So even for their own reference, I know this system was evaluated last 8/22/24. So that helps me knowing too that even if before I even get to my maintenance records, I know that they already are maintaining these systems that along with my tag, I know that they have eyes on this. So the second part of our cleaning system is now going to take all the large particulate and it's going to move into the finer details. If you will, all the bacteria, E. coli, things of that nature are going to be killed right here in our UV pumps. So these UV pumps are simply putting UV light right through the middle of that tank and killing all the bacteria that moves through. So one step further, cleaning all of this water and purifying it for all the end users at the pools. We have two of them here, and this is sufficient enough. As you'll notice in the other room, we had two big tanks for two of the major pools, and then we have another small sand filter over in the corner. So we have essentially two systems running through this building. They're both running through these UV sites here. These are going to clean, and once they go up, next, they're going to go over to all of the chemical cleaning or chlorine, things of that nature. So let's pop over there. So now that we've gone through our sand filter and we've gone through our UV filtering, now it's time to put chemical and other additives into the water to make sure that it's clean and safe for us to use inside the pool. So we have two different systems here. Now, as an inspector, obviously, we don't necessarily need to know how these systems work or how deep to get into these systems. We can obviously see things visually. So for example, right now I'm looking at a chlorine tabulation system. That's what's over here in these buckets to the next to me is just tabs of chlorine. So those are going to go in here, easily dumped on the top, and it's going to break it down and run it through the water. If I see here where I have a lot of spillage, if I have a lot of damage, this chlorine can be corrosive on its own. So obviously they're doing a great job maintaining it. But if I come in here and I see that this tank is damaged, that it actually has holes eaten in it along the bottom where my stand is or the plumbing around it, then I know that we have leaks and we have an issue here that should be addressed if we see it in the field. The second thing is even possibly more dangerous, if not just as critical to the process, is we actually have acid buckets over here. So these acid buckets are used to lower the pH of the water here. Sometimes it will also deal with the level of alkalinity in the water itself. So these systems aren't working one before the other. They're working in tandem and they're coming back over into the water on the other side of this wall. But it's important that you're paying attention to these. These are obviously housing something to clean. We have chemicals here. And anytime I have chemicals, I'm thinking of safety. I'm thinking of, are they contained? Are there any immediate issues? Because it's one thing to see a water pump leaking and it's another to see acid all over the floor, right? That is an immediate health hazard, something I immediately want to get to and ask somebody about. So again, using your own intuition, keep an eye on that. But something else I also see is I see a large mouse trap down here, a rat trap. So they're probably having some pestilence come in here. This is obviously probably outside of what you might be looking for, but just seeing it, I know, okay, maybe they're having mouse issues here. If they're having some sort of rodent issue, now what am I looking for? Are they chewing on plumbing? Are they chewing on electrical lines? Things of that nature that could be hidden back here. So make sure you take a moment and really look around everything as best as you can and just look for the obvious issues. And you should be good in an area like this. Now, after we have finished cleaning, we're going to move all of this over to the next side of the room and we're going to discuss why the water and how it's heated. And we're going to go take a look at their maintenance section where everybody who works in this facility is spending a lot of time in. So let's hop over there and take a quick look. I finished my filtering system, water's coming in, I've gone through my chemical, everything's entered, and now we're coming back over into the main room. And there's two separate things I'm looking at here. So one over on the wall, this is going to be my electrical controls for each of those systems and pumps that you see on the other side of the room we looked at earlier. Right here, this is very basic electrical. I'm looking to make sure there's no loose wiring, nothing's exposed, especially in a situation like this where there is a lot of corrosive air here that could cause electrical issues for them. You know, I'm looking underneath it, making sure things are tight. That's all very simplistic. Over here, we are looking at the heating elements and exchange of this building. Now, when it comes to a pool, what I have learned in this facility is they have to keep the water around 80 degrees Fahrenheit. And with the water being 80 degrees Fahrenheit, they also have to keep the air at a certain temperature because if the water in the air is not warm enough, then we have to worry about evaporation. We have to worry about improper use of chemicals and so many different things that get affected by poor water levels. So right here are going to be my heating elements for the water itself. It's coming back through here, and then it's going back over into the pool system. Now, what I'm looking for on something like this is similar to everything else. This is just a water feature. So I'm looking for any leaks or major issues. If there's shut-off handles or anything of that nature, I want to make sure they're present. Usually we're not going to see any sort of inspection tag or anything here, but I can even just see here on this sticker on the outside of it, it's telling me that this is a heating element. So even if I didn't know this was a heating element, just looking at the interior of it and the sticker on it, I know water's being heated right here. Understanding how a pool operates is important for you come in this room. Once it completes here, like I said, it's going to go back into the other side. And when we go into the other room and look at the water, you'll see how everything's moving over. But lastly, one of the most important things in this room for me as the inspector is the actual control setup and the maintenance logs. So let's hop over there and let's take a look at those real quick. Okay, so lastly, we are ending up here at the control station and the log station. As an inspector, you can do this two different ways. You can do what we did, where we walked through the entire process and ended up here, or this might be your actual first stop when you get into this room. Because for me, I'm trying to take a look at how is this room being maintained? Are there records? Are there things that's like invoices or repair prices or anything like that that alludes and tells me that things are operating here properly and that they're actually taking a look at it on a consistent basis? Obviously, in this facility, we know that they have a handful of maintenance individuals that are consistently keeping eyes on these systems. So I'm not as worried about it. Anytime we see a logbook like that, it is always in our best interest to go ask the maintenance director or someone in charge if we can look at that. I never want to come over here and move their stuff or take anything away from it and mess up their processes. But a logbook like that is extremely important because, again, I can take a look and see, are they actually maintaining it? I got a glimpse of that when we walked in, and I can for sure say they are looking at this and they actually came in and looked at it this morning. So eyes are on it. Now, if I was the maintenance person who's running this room, this is going to be something really important to me. Obviously, I still have to do my walkthrough. I still have to do my visual inspections, but I can come and I can see here the flow rates. I'm looking if there's any alarms or issues or security breach clearances. I can also see if my chemicals are actually moving through properly. This is kind of the heart of the system, if you will. Again, you got to go look at everything else, but this is what I can keep eyes on. You're not going to touch this as an inspector. You're simply going to look at it. But sometimes on a system, especially like this, I can see the alarm light come on. I can see if there's a sensor or a security breach issue. So that'll at least let me know maybe there is an issue with this box right now. And I can go to someone and ask that question, or at least document that in my report. And that is this whole room for the pool equipment. There's a lot in here. And remember, don't get overwhelmed. These are things that you are already familiar with as an inspector. We're looking for those basic, easy identifiable defects that we already know when it comes to plumbing and systems. And if you are unfamiliar with what you're looking at, 9 times out of 10, there's going to be some sort of data tag on it that's going to tell you what it is, maybe the manufacturing, how large it is, and what its use is. And then we're also looking for, again, anything that's like a basic leak, any issue, right? I have a room here that is all chemical and life safety things. So maybe that's going to be one of the more important things you're actually looking at is that room and then also my control logs. But don't forget, this is just a normal room, okay? I still have a fire extinguisher. I still have receptacles that are GFCI. I have covers on them. I have lighting. I have maybe HVAC coming in here. All of those things you have to be looking at as well. It's not just the pool equipment. But once you move through it and you see that this stuff's not as scary as it looks, you'll be able to confidently do an inspection on a pool storage room such as this.